from South Carolina, Mr. Norman.
Thank both of you for taking the time to come before the Rules Committee. Mr. Nadler, we're hearing a good bit of language now about how you support the police and are against defunding. When asked by the New York Post, would you be in favor of defunding New York police budget, your reply, yes, it should certainly be cut. We're spending too much money on the police. There should be substantial cuts to the police budget and reallocation of those funds to where we need them. In 2020, during the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, you would end qualified immunity for law enforcement officers. End qualified immunity, which would eliminate from the police officers I talked to entire forces. In June of 17th, the New York City Council passed a budget that cut the funding, the New York Police Department's funding by $1 billion. The 200 people were arrested in the New York City in the protest following the death of George Floyd 2 months ago, March 23rd, March of 2023, a settlement in federal court said New York City would compensate 320 New Yorkers more than $21,000 each who were surrounded, arrested, or subjected to excessive force by police, as well as another $2,500 to each person who received a desk appearance ticket. Two questions. One, I assume you stick by these comments. Secondly,
I stick by my comments, not necessarily by some other things that were there.
Do you deny anything I read?
No.
So you stick by that?
Yeah.
And you're making the case for why you support the police and are criticizing everything that Congressman Biggs
What I said,
just said. Hold on, let me just ask you something. You're with this in your of record, you're now making the case why what Mr. Biggs is describing does not support the police because it leaves out the Capitol Police, in your opinion. You realize New York City, New York has lost 300,000 residents. Many of them are coming to South Carolina because of just what I mentioned here. I don't know how you can sit there and make the statement you're making when your record is completely dismal when it comes to supporting the police, who are such a brave family of officers who do it for no other reason than protect the public. And you're sitting here making statements like you are as some big supporter. I don't get it. I really don't.
Can I answer? Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Well, several things. First of all, I did say that the New York City Police Department budget should be reduced in order to devote more resources to mental health. And that was done. About $1 billion was shifted from the police to the mental health. And that's because when you're in the subway, I mean, we just saw an example of this last week with Mr. Neely. When you're in the subway and someone is acting out, what you need is a mental health person, not a police officer who's not trained for that. And the city of New York recognized that, and things have been better since they did that. Not good yet, but better. Secondly, let me just mention some bills I passed last.
I don't want to go there on that. Just, I mean, you're standing pretty much by what you said, which is really not only is it hypocritical, it's
not hypocritical.
It's amazing that you're
it's not hypocritical.
Mental health. Alvin Bragg is really doing a terrible job of basically making a mockery of the police force, and the order of law in New York City, in your statistics prove it. It's up by 34%, and people are leaving your state, and it's going to continue from what I hear. My wife used to love to go there, not going again, by just as what happened on the subways. There's no place in New York that's safe other than a few places. Mr. Biggs, the criticisms have been leveled at, as you responded to outlandish claims by the Democrat representatives here on the Rules Committee. Have you ever heard anything like this before? To sit here at when they were in charge, they did everything but dismantle the police and support it. They supported the criminals rather than the victims and blamed it on mental illness, which I don't doubt. But people that do the shootings now are mentally ill. But do you get what they're getting at?
Hey, Mr. Norman, I appreciate that. You asked if I'd ever heard anything like this before. Yeah, I sit on the Judiciary Committee. We hear this a lot, this type of stuff a lot. And, you know, I don't know if you want me to start reading off all the statements that I have here from Democrats, members of this Congress, about defunding. You've heard the one from Ranking Member Nadler, and you might not have heard the one from Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who told CNN regarding defunding the police, you have to look at it that on a case-by-case basis. How about Cori Bush? She's kind of the poster child for defunding the police. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she says, this is what happens when leaders sign blank check after blank check to militarize police, CBP, et cetera, while letting violence go unchecked. We need answers and we need to defend. And after New York cut that $1 billion you're talking about, she said she thought the cuts didn't go far enough. Representative Jamal Bowman said similar things. She said, too many police in our country are more concerned with protecting white supremacy than serving the communities that pay their salaries. We don't need police with lethal weapons carrying out routine traffic stops. We need to reallocate police funding to unarmed traffic forces to remove even the possibility of sanctioned manslaughter. If you've ever worked with police, if you've ever done traffic, which I did, I prosecuted traffic offenses. The last thing in the world I want is to send anybody out there to deal with people who are, maybe they're drunk, maybe they're agitated, and they're unarmed to defend themselves in the public. Representative Pramila Jayapal said it's completely reasonable for us to shift significant resources from law enforcement and invest in people. Again, Representative Ilhan Omar. Representative Ayanna Pressley said the defund movement isn't new. Folks are just finally listening. We got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. And finally, Representative Rashida Tlaib said, when we say defund police, what we mean is people are dying and we need to invest in people's livelihoods instead. So, Representative Norman, when you asked me, have I ever heard stuff like this before? Yeah, I have. I sit on the Judiciary Committee, and this is their message constantly. And so it gets convoluted and lost, but they're the party that's really happy to defund police. Yield back.
The preview of coming attractions is being seen all across this country with the illegal aliens that the Democratic Party is allowing to come into this country. Don't check them out, have no background report. Don't know if they got the COVID shot or not when they were coming across when I went. You're from Arizona. You're a border state. We're all from border states. Now, 15 million that'll be in this country, I don't know how you walk that back. And the most unfair part of that is when that police officer stops a illegal alien, doesn't know anything about him, doesn't know whether his driver's license is real or not. That life is in danger of that officer, and it is a sad day in this country that they are allowing this to happen. No one on this panel has spoken up against the tragedy and the hypocrisy of allowing our borders, this country, to be invaded, which you can't say any other way. We've got an invasion going on, and hopefully the next administration will do what they can to deport the whatever number that can come in. And how many lives are going to be lost is so sad. I yield back.
Chair, thanks the gentleman yields back.
I mean that. When we fund the government this year, things better change, Mr. President. You come down here and you make threats to us about what you think is going to happen with respect to default. You come down here and lecture us in the people's house. Well, let me tell you, Mr. President, we're a co-equal branch of government. And we're not going to allow the American people to continue to be targeted by the very government that is supposed to protect them, that is supposed to do their constitutional duty, that is supposed to secure the border of the United States, that is supposed to stop fentanyl from coming in, that is supposed to have operational control of the border so that neither Americans nor migrants are dying, that is supposed to stop dangerous cartels, that is supposed to stand up to China, that is supposed to have a strong military, sparingly used but not woke. We're not supposed to spend money we don't have. We're supposed to balance our budget. We're supposed to defend the American people. And I'm not going to agree, sitting in the Rules Committee or on this floor, to continue the process of spending money we don't have, of not changing the status quo and not demanding that the President of the United States act like it, act like he's the president, defend this country, secure our border. He doesn't get to come down here and lecture us. The People's House decides how dollars get spent. The People's House represents the people. We need a reckoning. We need to actually stand up and fight, stand up and be counted. I'm not going to go around the circles that we constantly go around in this place, having another meeting about another meeting about another meeting. How about we just stand up for something? How about people be on the floor of this body debating? Get another hour of special orders, another half hour of special orders. I'm sick and tired of watching Texans that I represent die from fentanyl. I'm sick and tired of watching my fellow Texans in the state legislature debating right now spending more Texas taxpayer money to do the job the federal government is supposed to do and secure the border. I'm sick and tired of walking around on eggshells around a body comprised of members of both sides of the aisle that refuse to do their job to stop spending money we don't have and say, oh, well, what political poll-tested 80% issue can we put out there and go to the American people with so that we can sound reasonable in our demands? How about you just demand what's right? Why don't we just stand up and say, you know what, we're going to balance our budget. Giddy up. That's what every American does. It's what every business has to do. But no, we'll keep going around in circles, each side going to their pet projects. Meanwhile, the federal bureaucracy is going to continue to be at war with the American people, like my friend Scott Smith, who was here last night. Not one single mention by the president. Hadn't apologized a lick for putting him through that. Domestic terrorist. Hadn't apologized a lick for the fact that his Secretary of Homeland Security, who was here last night, stood up at a lectern and said that his own Border Patrol employees that worked for him whipped Haitian migrants when he knew full well, both from the video evidence that we all saw with our eyes and a memo from his own people in Department of Homeland Security, that was not true. He knew it. And then he blamed it on systemic racism. Has he apologized? No. And the reason he hasn't apologized is because he's at war with the people of the United States and the fact that his job is supposed to be to secure the border, and the president knows it. President goes down and does a photo op with a preset visit in El Paso where they literally go out and clean out the streets of the migrants who are piling up in El Paso and sets up a photo op. And then last night dares to come down here, lecture us, lie to the American people that we're trying to go after their Social Security and Medicare, and offer nothing about his constitutional duty as President of the United States to secure the border. Mr. Speaker, I will yield back here in a minute. I assume my time is running short. I'll just close by saying this. The American people expect more out of the People's House. They expect more out of the President of the United States than what we saw last night. It was not a State of the Union. It was a state of confusion. We have an obligation to do our job and stop spending money we don't have, secure the border of the United States, and actually represent the people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Members are reminded to direct their remarks to the chair and not to a perceived viewing audience.
Chọn đêm nay để nhớ thương anh. Em nghe tình yêu thức dậy êm đềm, nhớ từng nụ cười ánh mắt, nhớ lời ngọt ngào âu yếm, tóc em thơm giấc ngủ dịu. Biết giờ này anh có nhớ em không? Có nghe tình yêu thức dậy trong lòng? Đêm từng màu thời gian đến, bóng hình người mình yêu mến, ôi nhớ gì hơn nhớ người yêu. Rất chân thành ước nguyện trọn đời yêu anh, chớ đừng giận hơn em nhé. Anh ơi đừng bao giờ nói chia lìa, sẽ làm tội nghiệp em lắm. Đã thương nhau chớ phụ tình nhau, thức trọn đêm nay để nhớ thương anh. Sương rơi lạnh câm cảnh vật im lìm, ước gì mình đừng ngăn cách, ước gì nhà mình chung vách, hai đứa mình thức trắng đêm nay. Anh ơi lòng em thì rất chân thành, ước nguyện trọn đời yêu anh, chớ đừng giận hơn em nhé. Anh ơi đừng bao giờ nói chia lìa, sẽ làm tội nghiệp em lắm. Đã thương nhau chớ phụ tình nhau, thức trọn đêm nay để nhớ thương anh. Sương rơi lạnh câm cảnh vật im lìm, ước gì mình đừng ngăn cách, ước gì nhà mình chung vách, hai đứa mình thức trắng đêm nay. Ước gì mình đừng ngăn cách, ước gì nhà mình chung vách,